Hey everyone. Hello everyone out there in the YouTube and LinkedIn audience. I'm Daniela Saioni. Type a comment in the chat if you can hear me without any feedback. That's always my worry. But welcome. I'm wearing a toque because I have been going through it. As you may know, if you've been following me on social media, my mom is not well. She's very ill. So I have been going back and forth between the hospital and home. Today I'm at East Room in Toronto, which is my favorite co-working space. And I have canceled a bunch of events, but this was actually perfectly timed that I could do this today with you. So listen, if you don't know who the hell I am Daniela Saioni. I am a screenwriting coach and story consultant and screenwriter, amongst other things, but I have a number of programs. I have a screenwriting playlist on my YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, it's at Shtick to Script, because some of you are watching this on LinkedIn. I've got playlists related to script supervising and screenwriting and creative entrepreneurship. And I just wrapped a show. I just wrapped an incredible Christmas movie for Netflix called A Merry Little Xmas. And it's been a minute since I have actually done a talk for my screenwriters. And the other day, I was on set and I got this ping that someone had commented on one of my videos from 3 years ago, which by the way, I recommend everyone watch it. It was a really fun discussion with 4 of my alumni in Canada called Canadian TV Comedy Writers Roundtable. And we were talking about their career trajectory since they did my From Shtick to Script program, which is for TV writers. And although they were sort of my OG alumni, I've had even greater success with some of my recent alumni, in the sense that, listen, the people I interviewed in that talk are amazing, amazing writers who've been able to work on major Canadian comedy series. They've created their own series and they wrote on other series, but not all of them, but most of them had some writing experience before they came to me at the time for the initial iteration of From Shtick to Script, which was in 2012 at Comedy Bar in Toronto. I'm really proud of that course because, well, I'll backtrack even one more step before I tell you the rest of what I was going to say. I graduated from a comedy screenwriting program that I was very disappointed in. And also I have trained at some of the amazing comedy programs, improv programs at Second City. And I spent years doing that, and I actually loved it so much. But I was finding I didn't see the program that I wanted to see in the world. And when I was doing stand-up comedy actively, which was between 2008 and 2016, hi, Addison. I noticed that comedians were honing their incredible voices. If you go through my history and see the room I ran in Toronto at Comedy Bar called West End Girls, it was quite an amazing lineup of exceptional female and token boy comics. But if you were not with me during that era, I had a room called West End Girls. Every single month, I'd feature 8 women and 1 token male comedian. I would do it a little bit differently if I was running a room right now. But the most wonderful thing about that whole experience, I was addressing a moment in Toronto comedy history when women were just not getting stage time at all. So I was trying to counterbalance that with paid stage time for pro-am comedians. And one of the things that I was noticing was that comics were honing their voice, getting really, really good. And that is so valuable to the world, and you know, to have funny people who know who they are. But there's a ceiling. There's a limit of what you can actually earn in Canada, unless you like really, really break out, like someone like Russell Peters, or there are people that are from even my own comedy days. Addison asks, are there still stand-up comedy open mics? Oh yeah. Well, I would say that Addison's asking about Yuck Yucks specifically. They did have an open mic night at Yuck Yucks back in the day on Tuesdays. I would assume they still do it. But you know, there's about a gajillion other clubs and places that you can play, or you can do what I did and create your own room. It's phenomenal. We found our audience. We always sold out our shows. Well, almost always. There are occasionally times when we didn't. I was lucky enough to work with Comedy Bar. Comedy Bar in Toronto has 2 great rooms, one in the East End, one in the West End. I would recommend working with a club like that to create your own show, or contacting, if you're ever in Toronto, just let me know. I can give you the names of, like I said, I retired from stand-up in 2016 because I focus on my comedy screenwriting, where I make most of my living. And at the time, I created From Shtick to Script to give comedians a lifeline, really, where they could take their comedy voice and apply it to the medium of film and TV writing. And the thing is, Addison, you're a comic, if you get up to the level of, let's say you're at your Just for Laughs special, one of the first things that you're going to hear is, oh, do you have a pilot script for me? This is a true story with comedians, right? And sometimes comedians are like a deer caught in the headlights going like, what? So I originally had created my TV writing program for that very purpose. And what I found was actually the most successful people who benefited from Shtick to Script were not comedians. To my own surprise, I thought comedians would be lining up for that opportunity to really make the transition. But what I found was, more often than not, I did get some brilliant improvisers and stand-up comedians and sketch artists in that program, and I still do to this day. But what I found was it was regular people, actors, and novelists who actually benefited the most from my TV writing program, in the sense that they were able to build careers, able to sell scripts. That's what I was going to say earlier. Although that's how I began teaching comedy writing, as a way to give people a lifeline in Canada, because I had been in the film business, since 1991, on the shooting floor as a script supervisor, working closely with some of the best, TV and film writers and directors in the business, especially in comedy. So I was able to come into screenwriting later in life with a solid foundation. And once I figured out a process that really worked for me, because when I started, I was a super slow writer. So slow. And not, I kept thinking, oh yeah, you can fix it in the rewrite. But I came to this whole big epiphany as I was going through some of the programs that I was not pleased with. They weren't giving us a process. They weren't giving us clarity on a number of things. So I took a deep dive for a couple of years, like a couple of years into my stand-up career, when I was really getting good at joke writing and figuring out more and more about how comedy works. I took a deep dive into TV screenwriting at first, and then into feature film screenwriting. And all the hundreds of hours of research I did, I put into the creation of a course, which was based on the process that I had discovered that really gave me a leg up, really, as a writer. Things really started to happen for me once I honed in on my process. And then when I was clearly able to teach it to people, which was around 2012, that was my first TV writing class that I taught. I could see it was actually working for some people even better, in the sense that they got staffed in writer's room. Like, hallelujah, what a great thing when my students get staffed and they build careers. It makes me very proud. I still go back and forth between writing and script supervision, and I'm a teacher, of course, and a coach and a story consultant. I became a union writer in 2016, and but some of my students go like much farther, in the same way that a lot of the comics who played West End girls, my stand-up room went really far, and I'm so proud. Like, I could not be happier for the success of my fellow peers and comedy writers. That's why I hold nothing back when I teach. I give you guys everything I know, because I believe that saving yourself time, the way that I was able to save myself as a writer, will hopefully bring funnier films and TV series into the world, will give new people a lifeline. And that's what I wanted to say. In the past couple of years, I've been seeing first-time writers in both my TV and feature film programs write the scripts in my programs that they sell, that they actually get into option status, which means a production company and or a network buy it and develop it with the writers. I'm I'm actually shocked by that, because in all my years in the film business, that's not something that we see very regularly at all. Meaning, like, yes, people sell shows that are unknown writers, but usually they've literally written 5 to 10 scripts. Every time I meet a TV writer on set who's getting like a pilot made for the first time, I always ask them, how many scripts did you write and how many scripts did you option before you sold? And the average answer about how many they wrote was 9. So just like, it's a funny number in comedy and stand-up, you write 10 jokes for the one that you keep, right? And same with screenwriting, you write about 10 scripts for the one that sells. So, there were varying answers, but that was sort of the most common figure I heard. So as I think the reason for this state of affairs with brand new writers selling scripts, which is great, by the way, is that there's just more places to make and sell things. It doesn't sound like it because Hollywood is changing so much, but there's so many more independent places to sell stuff. But oddly, the last 4 who sold stuff to some pretty major production companies, so they weren't like little kind of small things that are not going to go anywhere. Oh, they're big places. So we'll see how if I can announce some of those shows. But anyway, as I was on set last week, I got this ping that someone in Calgary had been watching that interview with my TV comedy writers, and they wrote, "Oh, I can't believe I discovered this so late," because that was an interview that I did 3 years ago with them. And they were like, too bad you're not still teaching your writing programs. I sure am. All the programs are still going strong. Sorry, I'm just going to drink some water. This is some of my swag, by the way, writer whisperer for what I do as a story consultant. Yeah, so no, the programs are going actually pretty strong. I don't teach them live anymore. I used to teach them live at Comedy Bar in Toronto. That's where they were developed. So for all the years until lockdown happened in 2020, I was teaching those programs live at the Comedy Bar, working with classes of up to 20 people. And then I'd have 2 classes a day sometimes. So sometimes I'd have 40 people in each session that I would do. And they were 5-week sessions. And I'll go deeper into that because I want to explain for those running across this video. I just want to explain sort of the way that my universe of writing programs kind of works, because I developed it over time to become, hopefully, I think that this is the most sort of effective way that I can teach it, just judging by the results that I've been able to get people. But I'm always adapting and adding things and adding components. And I'm announcing a new course I'm adding on Punch Up. But let's start with the basics. So my flagship program, the program that I see giving people the most success, was the one that I've just been talking about, From Shtick to Script, which was originally, it was named that way because it was designed to take your comedy act, but you could also, if you find, there's a video on my comedy playlist called How to Turn Your Life or Act into a screenplay, or did I say into a TV pilot? One of those things, in 5 steps, right? And I basically talk about the early way that I structured my screenwriting program. I have the training in 2 separate streams, the TV and the feature film stream, and everybody comes together in what I call idea jams. The basic training in From Shtick to Script is pre-recorded, and it is a 20-hour training plus bonuses. And in 20 hours, I can take someone who has never written a TV pilot and get them to the knowledge level and basically the knowledge level to write a marketable, funny, and personal script. And I say personal because it's very important, and it's even more important now than in the past, that I think, and based on what I've seen, that you write from your life, that you write from your life experience. And you'll find other talks on my playlist on why great comedy requires great pain. So comedians, we work from our pain, and that's how I teach everybody to work from. And great comedy does require great pain. You can see my talk on it on this on my playlist. But yeah, in the program, I teach you the process I use, and it's presented in the order I use. I'll give you a backstage of it before I log out today. So you'll get a sense of what it means to say it's a digital program. You'd have to be online somewhere, so you need internet access. There's 20 hours of training that I use to teach live over 5 weeks. So I suggest you do them in 5 weeks. They're divided in 5 modules, and there's Addison says, all I know is pain. Well, that means you're probably hilarious, or you can be hilarious, because it's the way to survive. As I wrote to everybody in my, I just wrote to my screenwriting community today. My mother is quite ill right now, and I have canceled a bunch of stuff, but I have not canceled my comedy stuff, because comedy keeps me alive and keeps me just keeps me going. In fact, my mom is hilarious. She's been laughing all the way through this like extreme stuff she's going through. And I have no doubt, however this ends, that she will go out laughing or trying to make me laugh, because she doesn't like it when people cry. And I cry all the time, guys. So yeah, no, it is a great way to survive life. And I think it's the reason so many of us became comedians in the first place, or comedy writers, as a way to heal ourselves and other people. So I interrupted myself, so I can't remember what I was telling you. Oh yeah, so from shtick to script, or if you are interested in my feature film class, similarly, it's called Make 'em Laugh for 90 minutes. It's also a 20-hour training program. I believe that the content in my programs are the core information, and it's thorough, and it's core information. It's also thorough. It's the course I wanted to see in the world. So it was nothing like what I learned in other comedy screenwriting programs. I do incorporate some of the concepts I've learned in other classes, like Game of the Scene, because that's so important for anyone working in a TV writer's room to be aware of some of the major sort of developments in comedy writing. So stuff is incorporated from major, paradigms of comedy that we learn, yes-anding and all of that. But, and it's put into the context of doing scene work in terms of Game of the Scene, and yes-anding at every stage, at the premise level, etc. So I'll take you on a little backstage tour of that before I log out. But I just want to give you the overview. People generally join me at that stage. There is an option to join me, like you can get a discount if you combine it with film and TV writers room. So they're separate classes, meaning the purpose of the training is to train you guys. And also with that class, you get feedback from me on your premise, character work. And you're going to know what I mean by character work when you take the program, but you can see a video on my playlist called Doing Character Work, which sort of describes my philosophy on that whole thing. After like I said, doing hundreds of hours of research when I was developing the course, the stuff that sort of the tools that stayed with me and the concepts that stayed with me about character work. So you'll get feedback on your premise, character work, and the structure of your pilot, if it's a TV series, or the structure of your feature. And then when I say the structure, everyone has different brains. So for some people, the structure is done in a beat sheet. For some, it's a full treatment. For some, it's like note cards, index cards, however you express the structure of your structure, you get feedback included in the cost of From Shtick to Script or Make 'em Laugh for 90 minutes. If you want to continue to do script development with me, basically the program, the training program includes everything you need to know to go ahead and write your script on your own. It's all there. You don't have to guess. I go through each step and optional homework for each step in the order of the process that I use and I still use as a top 1% cover fly writer. I have I'm constantly on whenever I issue a new script, I'm on the red list always. So I was on the I was a 1%er. I'm a 1%er overall for all the scripts on Coverfly, but and listen, it's not just me, it's my students too. So I know the process works. I stand behind it. I don't I'm not like I'm not saying that it's the only process in the world. You'll each have, like I said, different brains and different things that inspire you most. I always ask my students to try the process that I present in the program and then adapt it to your own needs. And many people do. And listen, I have a lot of people in my screenwriting programs who don't even write comedy. They just like the process that I teach. So they apply it to drama and genre and all of that, which is exciting to know that it can work outside of the comedy sort of medium. But I will always teach through a comedy lens because that's who I am, right? So as long as you can make use of it in whatever medium you're writing in, I want to say at least 40%, about 40% of my students don't even write comedy. So it can apply to your genre. I already know from having read people who write 1-hour pilots and, genre pilots. I teach really the half-hour medium, and people are, sometimes there's confusion about us. They think I'm teaching sitcom in the old school sense, like meaning like live to tape. I do talk about live to tape versus live action, but obviously we're in a modern world where most shows are not live to tape. They are shot on location, and there's like comedy is like a much broader term now than it ever has been. So comedy now, I was actually shocked to realize that the show Dead to Me was a half-hour show because it was so dense and it was so rich, and it's comedy, but it's super, super dark. Obviously Fleabag is super dark too, and also quite definitely comedy. So the definition of what comedy is has expanded and grown, and I teach all of that. I'm teaching in that general umbrella of comedy, but comedy has a spectrum. And also, people do write live to tape sitcoms. I just don't think that is representative of most of what my course teaches. So I just want to clarify that for those who think that's what the course is about. It's expressing your premise. It's discovering your personal premise. That's actually part of the course. I have a 5-day film and TV comedy challenge that I used to do publicly like a few times a year. I'm converting that into a book, but you can still do the 5-day challenge. It's included as part of the training program. It's in addition to the 20 hours, but I find it really useful for you to tap into your personal premise that is funny and marketable. So that's still part of the program, and you can get feedback from me on that personal premise at Idea Jams. So let me explain what idea jams are, because people go, what the hell are idea jams? So you're not like working in a bubble. Just because you're doing the program at your own pace with lifetime access in the pre-recorded part of it, multiple times a year, like at least 5 times a year, some years we do 6 sessions, they're 5-week sessions of idea jams, which are, they're a group Zoom where people log in from wherever they are. We've had up to 7 countries in the program. I have like 30 countries in my script supervision programs, but as writers, it's 7 of the English-speaking nations that are usually involved in my writing programs. And we tune in once a week for 5-week sessions, 5 times a year to jam. And when I say jam, people bring in their concepts, character work, and any sort of, sometimes they bring in scene work on stuff that they're working on, whether it's the script they want to develop with me later or further, sometimes people develop multiple projects in idea jams, and we yes and each other. So I answer questions about the program in there, and I also yes and. So that's also a place to present your premises that you come up with in the 5-day challenge if you want to. I'm hoping to release the book of the 5-day challenge within the next couple of months so that it will be more publicly widely available, but it comes with the program if you take the full program. So idea jams are really fun. I don't know of many programs who offer anything like that. I can't even think of a program that offers something like my idea jam sessions. They are pretty legendary for those who haven't been through the process. And it just is an ongoing sort of accountability, a place for you to show up and just sharpen the comedy toolbox that you have. We divide up the time equally. They're 1.5 hour sessions, and we divide the time up equally between however many people show up. And it's been between like 3 and 10 people. It's funny, like we have 100 people in the program probably right now, and usually about 10 will show up to idea jams. If it gets bigger, I'll do a couple of idea jams a week. But right now, I'm going to announce dates at the end of this too for the next idea jam. So when you sign up for either Stick to Script or Make 'em Laugh for 90 minutes, you get a year of idea jams with it. So it's like having a go-to writer's room. It's like a lot of people are writing without writing partners. It's a way to get the experience of working with a writing partner, and everyone is like focused on comedy and they have the basic training. You can also, if you want to extend it past the year, you can purchase Idea Jam as an existing student for, I think it's $197 a year right now. I may raise the price in future, but I'm not like in any hurry to raise the price. I just wanted people to have the option to extend their year. Okay, so those are the basic training programs. And then you guys will have probably heard I do feature film and TV writers' rooms. And depending on how many projects in TV and film are happening, I might separate the groups. Listen, at Idea Jams, we get the feature film and TV people all together, right? It's quite fun. It's quite electric. But usually lately, for the past couple of years, I have been combining the feature film and TV writers' rooms. So some people are working in one medium and some in another. I pick up to 8 projects, no more than 8 projects at a time, get into that class. It's usually more like 4. Because to apply for that class, you have to have done the basic training. You have to have either gone through from Stick to Script or Make 'em Laugh and submitted your premise, character work, and ideally also your story structure if you have it done. And I'll pick the, up to 8 projects that I feel are ready to go into script development with me. And those are very intense 5-week Zoom sessions between 2 and 4 hours, depending on how many people we have. Again, no more than 8 projects. And over 5 weeks. And we do script development. So you come in with scenes written, or you can come in with a beat sheet if you're working out your structure still at the beginning. But by the end of it, the goal is to come up with the first draft or the next draft, because sometimes people do come in with a script of your script. And some people finish their script early and they work on their pitch deck for TV series. So it is a really, really intensive program, and it's really, really been helpful for the people who want that accountability. And it's like hiring me as your story editor and having a writer's room, because each project sort of gets their half an hour to be the focus, and where you're the showrunner or the main writer, because I know we don't have showrunners in feature film, and everyone else acts as your writer's room. And we bounce ideas off each other, and yes, and what you've brought in. And then you'll notice there's an accelerated level of script development. So it's like, it's way more productive than writing alone kind of in a vacuum. And then after the 5-week session finishes, you have a month to write your quote unquote vomit pass. If you haven't written a draft and you just want to get the draft out, you can send me that a month later and I'll give you written feedback on your project. And that's available separately, or there's like a package deal where you can prepay for both and save $200 US. So normally, I think right now the prices are $497 US for the basic training and $597 US for the script development for writer's room. So together it would be about $1,100 US plus HST for the Canadians, or GST depending on your province. But you can take $200 off that if you prepay. And when you prepay, you have to get into a writer's room within 2 years of paying. So within 2 years, listen, I've extended like all kinds of things for people. For example, like if it takes you longer than a month in writer's room to send me your vomit pass, I'm quite fine with that. But those are the general guidelines. I'll give you a little tour of the Backstage, and then I'll tell you about the new program that I have. Okay, let me see. I've never shared screen on a live, so let us hope that I can do this. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. Yay, that's kind of working. Okay, so this is when you purchase from Stick to Script. I have the link on a link tree in my bio on my YouTube channel, also on my LinkedIn profile, my Instagram, anywhere where you see me, you'll see my link tree. From Stick to Script is a TV writing program. When you purchase it, it'll automatically link you to the course on the platform I use, which is called Samcart Courses. Okay, let's see. So basically you get a course dashboard with all the modules. So there's 5 modules divided up into the order of the premise that I teach. The process, sorry, not premise, the process that I teach. So the week 1 focuses on your premise. By the way, you'll also get the 5-day challenge as a separate little mini course that you'll see on your dashboard. But week 1 is a deep dive. And this is just how I used to teach it at Comedy Bar back in the day. Like same structure. I've sort of updated some of the lectures. And by the way, if I ever update them again, which I always will, because I always do, you will get access to every future upgrade no matter when you join the course. So in premise, there's like 9 different lessons and then an optional homework. And I say optional because some people choose to work along with the training and some people choose to take in all the training and then decide their work schedule later. So yeah, what makes for a great TV comedy premise? Where do ideas come from? What is a premise pilot versus episodic? Writing a premise for another performer, which is sometimes something we get hired to do. From comedy act to premise, or from your life story to your premise. Analysis of I give examples of multicam, like the live to tape pilots and the single cam pilots. Single cam really is not literally a single camera, but like the way that most pilots are made. So I break down Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt in that. Premise statements and log lines and optional homework. And then we do the character work. I teach a whole lot of approaches to character, including my favorite, which is my writing teacher, Julie Gray, did an updated version of the Art of Dramatic Writing's version of character work, which is what I use still as a writer and as an actor. It's very, very useful to writers, actors, directors, anyone dealing with character. Week 3 or module 3, depending on how you break down is finding your story, organic ways into your story, what story structure is, analysis of different very popular pilots, the scene work. What is the scene work? So many people don't know what character work and scene work is, which boggles my mind. What is a scene? The components of a scene, classic comedy scene types and tropes, the inappropriate response, a major comedy writing tool. Game of the scene, another sort of modern and important, and I have a little interview with Matt Folliat, one of my favorite Game of the Scene teachers in Toronto, an analysis of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and how they use game, the process of scene work, and then optional homework. And then I get into my favorite, dialogue and joke writing. More on joke writing with my newest course that I'm going to tell you about. But I go deep into dialogue and joke writing. It sort of sets us apart as comedy writers. I can't even remember what so bonus talks, proscript formatting techniques. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing and go. So I talk about how to create a pitch deck and the art of the pitch. Exposing the Truth says, I would love to create a documentary. Now, documentaries are scripted for sure. I used to work in documentary first when I first entered the film business in the early 90s. But you wouldn't necessarily need to take my class to learn how to write a documentary movie. If I were doing that, I would actually try to find examples of documentary scripts. I would imagine that there are, I've never tried to do that because I've only written and seen like the documentary scripts I worked with at the NFB, but, and I would watch documentaries and a lot of documentary, by the way, is written in post-production. So there's a lot of work we do up front. This is a whole other side topic, but yeah, Exposing the Truth. What I teach is not really geared towards that. But I love the art form. So I encourage you to get familiar with the ones you like, the types of documentary you like, because there's so many. and sort of try to find the way that they're laid out on the page in script format. It's a whole different process, documentary. Maybe one day I'll teach on it, but I tend to not teach things that that I don't have like a ton of direct experience with. I have some with documentary. I certainly have script consulted on documentary features, but it's not like my forte. I'm sure there is a course by someone. If you can search anything on YouTube and find your teacher for that. And hopefully you found me because you searched for online comedy screenwriting programs. Anyway, so you get, when you take the training programs, which you can join at you don't have to wait for any specific date. They're always available, okay? Film or TV, the training programs. The idea jams are on specific dates, and my next one starts on 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., Saturday, March 29th to April 26th. So that's our next Idea Jam session. They're based in Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern. Right now we're in daylight savings. So 3 p.m. to 4:30, March 29th to April, what did I say, 26th. So that's our next 5-week session. We'll do another one in June and another one in September and another one in November. So they're always, there's always a little bit of rest time, and then we're back in 5 sessions a year, sometimes 6 when I go totally crazy. So that comes with, and you get a year. So let's say you were to join the program in April, you get until next April to jump on any Idea Jam you want to, as many of them as you want to. You get the feedback from me, and then you get access to specialized talks I do. So that pro script formatting techniques, that's a talk I did in 2020. That's in the bonus section. I'm revamping it to include final draft on March 29th. That's free to my students. It's free for people to attend live, and you can purchase the recording. I think I'm going to make the recording of that 27 US. It's something a lot of writers ask me for. What else? Okay, so the next dates for Film and TV Writers Room. So many people they just want to jump to Film and TV Writers Room. So I'm going to take a minute to explain why I prefer not to do that. I used to teach it that way. Like I used to teach Film and TV Writers Room, believe it or not, at the same time, meaning we do a 4-hour class for the training at Comedy Bar Live, and then I take an hour with people who wanted to do Writers Room. It wasn't as fruitful in terms of like getting people trained first, and having us make up our Writers Room really brings Film and TV Writers Room alive, brings it to a high level. It brings it to a productive level. And it's really exciting. There was nothing more exciting to me than when I separated out the 2 classes and required people to have done the basic training with me. So we're all speaking the same language in the writer's room. By the way, if you haven't done my film and TV program, but you've done my story editing program, you are eligible to take film and TV writer's room, because when I train story editors, I train them in the same things that how to do the character work, how to analyze character work. For those who don't know, I also have a very rare program in the world where I train story consultants, and that's called Story Editor Studio. It's only once a year. We're almost finished the current cohort. The next one should be in January of next year. Sometimes I announce it a little later. That's been such a joy to teach. Anyone who's gone through my Story Editor Studio program who wants to do film and TV writer's room is eligible. Finally, I want to announce, besides all of that, I want to announce that first I should say that our next writer's room session is April 12th to May 10th. Sometimes people catch these lives and they go, well, can I do my training before April 12th? What's the date? March 12th. Of course, it's possible that you get the full bundle, or you just pay for the training, you do the training, and you could do the training in a week I don't recommend it. I would rather you spread the training out over 5 weeks, but you could accelerate it a little bit and be in time to jump into our next writer's room session, which starts April 12th. But I wouldn't rush it if you don't, especially if you've never written before. If you've taken different screenwriting programs and you just haven't found your match yet, and you might want to try doing that training and then jumping into writer's room on April 12th. You have to submit your premise and character work to me by April 4th to be eligible for that class. Or you can join our writer's room in June, because we do 4 writer's room sessions a year as well. So it's not like you'll have to wait a long time to do the next one. And yeah, I also do obviously private story consulting. I'm a union writer though, so I'm a union story consultant as well. So sometimes if people don't want to go union because it requires you doing a contract with me through the union, it's actually not any more expensive than if I was non-union, because the Writers Guild of Canada doesn't set minimum rates at all for story editors. So we set our own rates. You do have to pay the WGC fringes, which is about 19% if you're not a member of the Producers Guild. It's plenty of people do it with me. It's not anything that's sort of too earth-shattering, but I have a number of non-union story consultants, especially in Canada, but in all different countries, actually. I have Europeans and Americans and Australians and New Zealanders who are story consultants who have trained with me, and they're still non-union. So if you're ever looking for a story consultant, you can watch some of the videos I've done. I do interviews with some of my alumni, and if you've watched, though, they're on the screenwriting playlist. If you watch those and you really connect with, and you're like, I really want to work with that person, just email me, reach out. It's mondocinema@gmail.com. Just reach out and I can connect you to that person. I do it all the time. They're super nice people. I don't take a cut. I know what, I just like to bring people together who connect with each other. Sorry, I'm doing a time check. It is 20 to 5. Okay. I will wrap this up shortly. I want to announce my big news that Punch It Up. So Punch It Up was a program that I beta tested in 2020, and it's a training program on how to punch up film and TV scripts. And that means getting the maximum funny out of the script while maintaining the integrity of the writer's voice. That's an important thing to me, both as a story consultant, as a punch up artist. I do punch up for a living as well. It's very important to me to work on the same movie that the writer is making, so it doesn't, there's nothing worse. And I learned this as someone who also hired punch-up artists. When I worked on a feature, me and my writing partner hired 8 stand-ups to the punch-up room. Very normal not to have 8. 8 was a bit of an experiment because we assigned them to specific characters. And listen, the worst thing is when a punch-up artist comes in and tries to layer in jokes that have nothing to do with the character work. So I learned a very deep lesson that day. It was an expensive lesson, but nonetheless, it was a good lesson because I learned how to train artists to punch up and not destroy the foundational character work that's in a scene. So that course is called Punch It Up. I'm going to introduce it at a $297 US price point. It comes with a year of joke gyms and punch-up gyms, and it comes with 6 hours of training. I haven't announced the dates yet because I am trying to figure out what's going to happen with my mom's health, and I have to figure out where I'm needed and where I'll be. But sorry, what's weird is, sorry, you guys are seeing me, right? Okay. I can't tell on my screen if you're seeing me or if you're seeing like my shared screen kind of thing. I'm going to be introducing that in April. It'll be available for purchase in April for everyone who has been in my Story Editor Studio program over the past 4 years, and everyone who has bought the bundle. There's been the bundle of From Chic to Script or Make 'em Laugh with writers' rooms is getting it for free. They know this because when they bought the course, I told them when I re-release Punch Up, they're getting it for free. But it is available for purchase separately, or it will be, for $297 US. So I'll be writing people on my mailing list in a couple of weeks when I know the dates, and I will be announcing it obviously here with a YouTube talk. Does anybody have any questions for me before I log off? Addison says, Fast Draft Method is another good screenwriting course. I know a bunch of, listen, my friend James Hurst, who is a showrunner here in Canada, has a great screenwriting course. Like, we all teach from a different perspective. Ellen Sandler has a great one. She's a very, very veteran screenwriter who worked on Taxi for the other old people in my in my audience. I grew up on Taxi. But yeah, I know there are some excellent courses out there. I I suggest that you find the person that you resonate with. And also everyone has specialization. So I specialize in half-hour comedy, TV, screenwriting. Listen, it's funny that I say that because most of the success I've had has been with a feature film I've written. Most of the success in terms of getting, options, getting the work the awards. I have about 15 laurels between 3 different projects, but most of those laurels are for the feature. But as a teacher, I've really gotten the TV writing down to a science. So I know I can fully train you in that. But yeah, everyone's got their own process. So there's not one way to skin a cat, which is a very violent metaphor, but there's not one way to be a writer. I believe that the asset that my program offers you, that is a very specific perspective and process that I've honed from my own life, that I have been able to test and prove over and over again, because I've probably worked with 200 writers at least now. I mean, work with them from concept to completion, possibly more because I have private clients and I have my students. But something in that ballpark. So I have seen a lot of different problems that people have or different kinds of writing brains and been able to work with them. So I have a lot of experience coaching screenwriters, and I have a lot of success stories. I'm going to have to interview more of them, but on my channel, you can find some of them. And Keisha Phoenix is another one. Find that interview. It's really, really fun and inspiring. Her feature film and her TV pilot that she wrote in my programs both got optioned. One, she's going to get to co-direct. What's your favorite thing you've written, says Justin Fields? Oh, that's such a hard one. I know, definitely my last 2. So the current pilot I've got out there, I co-wrote with Paul Hopkins. Shout out Paul Hopkins. We wrote a pilot that's currently making the rounds. It's called Open, and it's about polyamory. And it's specifically, Paul was one of my writing alumni, and he's an incredibly accomplished actor. And it's a 1-hour pilot, something I've never written before. I teach 1-hour pilot writing, but I have never written that before. We've got a couple of semifinalist laurels. We just started it in the process. So we hit semifinalists at Vail and at Atlanta Film Festival. It's starting to make the round. So hopefully we'll get some finalists and wins out of it. But I love that one. But it's very, very... If people are anti-polyamory, they're going to get, I'm actually surprised that we got as much as we did for it, because it can be oddly, ironically, a very divisive topic, open relationships and more love in the world. The one that I've won the most awards for, I love it because it was a shock to me that I could write that kind of a feature. Basically, the filmmaker, it's called Gian, which, as you probably know by now, with everything that's been going on in the world, is it means life, right? Because there's a famous phrase in the revolution in Iran and in other revolutions that are happening. But Gian is a filmmaker came to me and said, "I want you to write me an Oscar level script," and I want it to be. He cited Charlie Chaplin's The Kid, and he cited, I cited Being There. Again, you have to be very old to remember. That was a Best Picture kind of Oscar, at least the screenplay one. It's like The Kid, Being There, and Life is Beautiful, another Oscar-winning film. But sort of the tone of it is like that. And I never knew that I could write like that, because as a stand-up comedian, I was an R-rated comedian. I talked a lot about dating, and not even in a particularly dirty way, but when women are open about their sex lives on stage, or their dating life even on stage, people think that's R-rated. So that's sort of the writing that I often do, very honest, kind of truthful, kind of comedic writing that can be seen as sort of adult, right? So this was PG, and it was really profound because it was about a war refugee. It's about a war refugee from Syria who, ironic how it's even though this was written 2020, it was written in 2020, and it's even more relevant now in a way, because it's about a Syrian war refugee and the way he's treated in the United States as other, and how he loses. There's great tragedy in it because he loses his daughter and his wife on the journey. And he so it sounds so tragic. If I tell you like the things that happened, it's super tragic. And when the filmmaker came to me, I said, don't you want to hire, I can connect you to writers from the Middle East. And he was like, no, I'm the war refugee from the Middle East. I want you to write it, because he's the director, and the story by, obviously, because he came up with this intense idea for a story. And he said, I want someone who can make this funny because people have to survive this story. It's very, very tragic. And I took the challenge on. My God, I think it is one of the best things I've ever written. I do think it's Oscar caliber. I mean, it's received how many laurels now? 12. We've won a few grand prizes with it. It's won best screenplay. And it's not because of the wins that I think it's probably the favorite thing I've ever written. It's just the challenge. The bar was so high of what this filmmaker was expecting of me. And he said, and write it so that it feels like one of my movies. Because he's a very, very unique, his name's Mazdak Tayebi, very experimental filmmaker. This was his first. He said, I need this to be commercial. I need it to be accessible to people. And so it was a whole lot of challenges layered into one. So I love that. If you ever come and hire me as a writer, and you challenge me to that level, I will take it on. With Open, it was a sort of a lot of Paul's own experiences. So that these are challenges I love, to help bring out, because as a story consultant, that's the bulk of the way I make a living as a writer, even more so than teaching. I make more money as a union story consultant. The challenge is to bring out the writer's voice. Time check. Okay. Any other questions about my programs? Sorry, I went on a lot with that question about what's my favorite thing. You can find both those scripts on Coverfly. You have to be a member of Coverfly to download them, but they're publicly available if you're interested in reading them. They're making the rounds at different festivals right now. Xi'an is being pitched already to in the market proper. And there's more to come. I try to write continuously. I don't just teach it. I keep writing. I keep working. I do go back to script supervision at least one movie a year, and I just did my movie. By the way, I script supervised Another Simple Favor for anyone who is interested. I am so excited. It's coming out on Amazon Prime on May 1st. They just had their premiere at Open South by Southwest. It's so good. I mean, if you're a fan of Paul Feig, you know that everything he does is phenomenal. But if you watch the original, A Simple Favor, which I also script supervised, it's out of this world, and this is even better. So I'm just like, I just can't wait. We shot it in Capri and Rome. So I'm very blessed that I get to work with filmmakers of that caliber. And I do take what I learned from the process we use on set in creating movies like that into the Make 'em Laugh course. So the Make 'em Laugh is a little bit different from TV writing. I forgot to say that, in the sense that the final module, which is actually coming out, I haven't even released the final module yet because I've been reshooting and rewriting it, is the process of making comedy films on set at the level that we use with Paul Feig and I just worked with Steve Carr, who directed Daddy Daycare, and Paul Blart Mall Cop. Like I love working with filmmakers like this, because we have his process exactly the same as Paul's, by the way, exactly the same as what you might have seen Judd Apatow talk about in his masterclass, because Judd and Paul use the same process. I reference some of my favorite sort of comedy directors because they all have shades of this similar sort of process. So Make 'em Laugh includes that, because a lot of directors take that course, comedy writer/directors. All right, I'm about to get kicked out of this room at 5. If anyone has any more questions, I'll wait a sec. And then otherwise, you can watch this in the replay. I really appreciate you being here. And I just wanted to dispel the idea that someone had, because they came across an old video, that my programs are not still on. They're very much still on. We have an incredible community. Oh, and if you're in Toronto, I do meetups with my students in different parts of the world. I'm in London, UK, like 3 times a year. So I will have a London meetup in May. But in Toronto, we have our meetup is hopefully going to be the weekend of April 5th. So it's either going to be on the 5th or the 6th. I'm trying to find a venue. I might do it on the rooftop here. We have an incredible rooftop here at East Room. I just got to figure out the cost in the catering situation. Otherwise, in the past, we've done it at restaurants and bars. Justin Fields, I guess one more. Do you tell any jokes about women being left out of family events before they're single? Because they're single. Well, I tell jokes about my family, but which is normal, right, for any comic. And I tell jokes about being single, which is normal for any comic who's single, or, if they're married, they tell jokes about that. But it's so funny, Justin. I see a pattern in your questions because you talk about feeling left out. So that gives you a clue in your own comedy writing or your own writing that would be a theme that you would want to focus on. You should take my 5-day challenge when I have the book out, or if you join my program and take the 5-day challenge, because you have this recurring theme of feeling left out. You can use it as a core wound, as a sort of a basis to create a character. And that's sort of how I get people into the character work thing. Was first we sort of analyze our own themes. One of my writing partners took a course with Paul Schaefer, who wrote Taxi Driver. He came to Toronto and taught a course, like a master class. And he said to everyone there, do you know what your shit is? I hope YouTube doesn't bleep that out. But what he meant was, do you know the thing that trips you up in life? Because you're going to be writing about it for the rest of your life. And my friend raised her hand and said, yeah, I know my shit. I was born an orphan and I have these issues that people would have if they were born an orphan, right? So if you know that, that's the first step towards creating great characters based on that, and therefore great scripts. Because I think every great script starts with really good character work. So there you go. So yeah, I sort of know what mine is, but it's not about feeling left out. I'm not someone who in general feels left out. I create communities. That's what I do. When I created a stand-up room, I created a community all around me as I was learning stand-up. When I teach my courses, they create community. And that's sort of a big part of being in any of my programs, is you're also become part of the community that comes with it. So I don't know what city you're in, Justin, but you wouldn't be left out. You hopefully wouldn't feel left out. We all feel super connected in my programs. All right, I'm going to pack up. Thank you guys so much, and see you again. You can request topics that you want me to talk about. I love creating YouTube videos, and I love doing lives. Find links to my programs on the link tree in my bio, or reach out to me by email. You'll see my email address on some of the pages for the programs if you need to arrange a Zoom to talk to me about it. Okay, thanks everyone.